Let's take a trip to Insanity Island.
You have funny names.
And we're recording.
Oh, this is the first Insanity Island podcast. Whoa.
Let's just jump right in. Okay.
Jump right in.
This is the Insanity Island podcast, and I want to talk first to Tim. Tell us the weather down there on St. Simon's Island.
Well, it's a little rainy. It's a little cooler than it has been. It's kind of cloudy, but overall, the weather's very nice. You can tell that fall is on the way.
Yeah, same here in Stone Mountain. And Chris, tell us your animal situation. Who's in, who's out?
I got 4 freaking animals and a fish. I may as well be a zoo.
Well,
is a fish an animal?
An edible one, yeah. Hey, you want to see my giant dog? Look at that thing. Look at her.
Giant hog? What?
Dog.
She's big.
Oh, wow. What a beast.
She's beautiful, isn't she?
Gorgeous.
You know what she is? She's a mixed pure breed of German Shepherd and Chow.
Ah.
In other words,
is this America's funniest pet videos?
Could be. But isn't that a big dog?
That's a big dog.
It weighs 141 pounds.
Wow.
That's a lot of dog. Okay, we're going to make this a short test. I'm going to lead off with some funny news headlines. You guys respond however you want to. I'll go through these real quick, and then we're going to hand it over to Tim, and Tim's going to bring in a subject we're going to debate. So let me get started on this. This is from a website that brings you the fake news that you can trust, the Babylon Bee. First headline, these are all about the immigrant crisis. Kamala Harris, we all know what her title is, right?
Vice President.
Well, she's also in charge. She's the border czar.
That's right. The border czar.
So finally, Kamala Harris declares crisis at the border around her property. Second headline.
She live in Martha's Vineyard.
I guess, maybe. Probably has things up there, but headlines 2 of 3. Martha's Vineyard resident calls police to report a Hispanic in the neighborhood not holding a leaf blower.
Oh.
And
Ow.
headline number 3 from the Babylon Bee. Migrants decline Governor Newsom's offer of asylum in California since they just came from a collapsing communist hellhole with no electricity.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
okay.
Exactly.
And that's your headlines from the Babylon Bee.
That's great. Okay. Well, I'll tell you, I'll kick it off, and then Chris, I'll hand it over to you. I find it very, very ironic that Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, is trying to propose that the Attorney General of the United States impose kidnapping charges to the governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis. Okay? He wants to bring federal kidnapping charges among a fellow governor when his state has a lot of problems of its own that he should be focused on, like rolling blackouts, runaway inflation, runaway crime. And he wants to focus on Ron DeSantis shipping 50 illegal aliens, by the way, illegals, to Martha's Vineyard. What a brilliant move by Ron DeSantis. And, it's just amazing how these people like Gavin Newsom just go. I'll hand it over to you, Pendo.
Was it kidnapping when the Biden administration did the exact same thing? When they were flying migrants in the middle of the night and dropping them off in cities? Was that coordinated? Was that brutal and inhumane and racist? Well, of course not, because they did it. So it's okay. Just like when they riot and burn things to the ground, it's okay. If conservatives get slightly angry, it's insurrection.
Or just question it, or just question something. It's you're being accused of somehow a violent insurrection just by questioning.
Hey, look, I'm the FBI.
Yes. Oh, we're coming after you.
Dude, this is insane. I'm scared to death living in this country anymore. The Democrats have polarized everything so much, and they have the media and the movies and the entertainment and the voice on their side, the big tech, it's all on their side. So now if we say anything, they're going to come after us and throw us in jail, just like they do in a banana republic. And don't tell me that's not happening, because it is happening.
It is happening ever so much, and it's happening right before our very eyes. But yeah, it's happening right before our very eyes. And, you know, it's kind of disappointing to see the Republicans' reaction, which is basically not much. I mean, they're just kind of, you know, standing there and just letting all this happen.
Well, honestly, in their defense, there's not much they can do till they get the reins of power. They can't do any. I mean, honestly, I don't care to see anymore. We're going to pull them up in front of Congress and talk to them and ask them. I don't care if you do that, because they just don't answer the questions and nothing ever happens. So I don't want to see that anymore. I want to see, when you guys get back in power, I want I want them in jail, and I want.
Wait, Chris, you know what happens to this every midterm election cycle? The blue and the red, they all go inside the Beltway, and they all turn purple and start saying the word bipartisan a lot.
I want them hurt.
Bipartisan doesn't work anymore. It used to. Remember when Reagan used to work with Tip O'Neill? That stuff's gone. I have a question for you, Chris and Doug. My question is this. So they're threatening to indict former President Donald Trump. Now they're threatening to indict, or some are calling to indict Ron DeSantis on federal kidnapping charges. If they go as far as indict these two,
they wouldn't be able to do it to DeSantis.
But let's just say they did it. Let's just say they no pun intended, but trumped up some charges against Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis, and they actually put those two men in prison.
They wouldn't be able to do it to DeSantis, and I can tell you why.
Well, hang on. Let me just play out this narrative, and then we'll pivot to that. If they manage to indict these two men, put them in prison, what's the probability there would be an uprising of some sort in this country that could spark a civil war?
Well, I can tell you right now, what would happen would actually spark a civil war. What would happen is, if they tried to, with Trump, he's an ex-president. He doesn't really have any power. He can't control any arm of the government. He does have secret security protection, but that just means if he went to jail, they'd still be there with him, protecting him. So he'd be okay that way. But DeSantis is a governor. He controls the National Guard in his state. And if the FBI or the DOJ tried to take him to jail for this, on obviously something that's illegal for them to be doing, he would call out the National Guard, and all of a sudden you'd have a standoff between feds and state authorities with weapons.
Wow, that's a great point. That's a great point. So to play that out, to play that out, you think they would go so far as to send federal troops to imprison Ron DeSantis?
They would send the FBI to come get him. He would know this is happening, and because it would be a buildup, and he'd be protected by the National Guard and his own security. And I'd tell the FBI, we're not going to have you have a coup on our state also and just use the FBI and the DOJ as weapons. By the way, the president doesn't have the authority to use troops inside the United States. He has to go through the states.
Interesting. Now, Doug,
only once they couldn't do anything.
Those are some great points. Now, Doug, let me ask you, Doug, do you think that we are currently in the midst of a cultural civil war?
I'm sorry, I was looking at these girls on the chive. I kind of tuned out for a minute.
Oh, I could
put your eyes back in your pants.
That's understandable. Chive's the best app in the world. One of them.
The top one is Things That Bounce.
Yeah.
And
future go boom.
And future lower back problems.
Okay, well, let me repeat that question for you. Do you think that we are currently in the midst of a cultural civil war?
Oh yeah, and part of that,
Okay.
part of what's driving that is the fact that they just recently announced there was a big demographic shift for the first time in the country. A majority of people in this country are under the age of 40. Now you think of their experiences, how they grew up. They're a slight, not 52, 53% of the population. So now everybody's thinking in that mindset, not like a old guy, get off my lawn.
The reason that happened.
That's a good point. So by sheer demographics, okay. So are you suggesting just by sheer demographics we're in a cultural civil war, or do you think we're in a cultural civil war because of that and because of things like the cancel culture movement, the woke movement, or do you think it's just simply because we have a lot of young people now?
I think it's a huge demographic change. And I noticed, back in the night, I guess when Clinton, okay, there was Reagan, and then who came after Reagan? It was George Bush. And then you had
Obama.
No, Clinton. Clinton came first.
Oh, I thought you were talking about George W. Bush. Okay, yeah.
And I think the Democrats figured out the only way to keep power is because people were thinking more conservatively and they were going toward more conservative candidates, that they had to start these things like, everything's about race, everything's about sex, everything's about gender, and yada yada. And that's their calling card to stay in power now. So they got to keep that going.
Yeah.
Well, not exactly.
Pendo, what do you think? Do you think we're in the midst of a cultural civil war right now?
Well, no, I think what's happening is it's on purpose. This transgender thing, we don't know what a woman is, the gay marriage, all of it, every single bit of it is to destroy the nuclear family. So we don't really know what reality is. And then that's how Marxism takes hold. You got to get rid of God, you got to get rid of country, and you got to get rid of the family. This is all in Saul Alinsky's book, Rules for Radicals. Starts with destroying the family. Well, I mean, you think these teachers aren't trying to destroy, coming between kids and their moms and their dads? They're doing these things. They're not even telling the parents they're doing it.
I think that's a great point. Chris, to build your point about their objective is to destroy the family, destroy religion, destroy those sort of principles. I saw an interesting statistic recently, just last week. In 1990, 94% of the population identified themselves as Christian. Okay, today it's 64%. So that's a massive drop in people that identify themselves as Christians. Do you think that has something to do with
yes,
shall we say, this moral decay
I think it has everything to do with what I just said. They're doing everything they can to destroy the whole idea of Christianity. You don't see them doing it to the Muslims. That's because most people aren't Muslim in America. If they were and they did that shit, they'd probably get their heads cut off. But why do you think they're trying to destroy the whole idea of Christianity? It's to get rid of God.
They want more government control. Is that their objective? Is that why they want to cleanse us of God and Christianity?
No. They want complete government control.
I see.
From birth to death.
Right on the grave.
Right on the grave.
And let me ask you this. Doug. Doug, why do you think they want complete control? Do these people not believe in individual freedoms?
Oh, their individual freedoms, but other people that they can, lord over and say.
Hang on one second. I'll be right back, y'all.
Okay.
I've got to take care of something real quick.
Way to go, Doug. You made him leave.
Well, that's the way it goes. Doing a live podcast, live without a wire. But we're gonna have to wrap this up pretty soon.
Thanks, Doug.
I want to get them on another subject, and we'll wrap it up.
I have to share my office with the laundry room. So.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot.
Anyway,
I thought we were going to also discuss the Woman King.
Oh yes, the Woman King. Okay, so Chris, I got very curious.
Boy.
So I watched the trailer. of the Woman King.
Yep.
And the trailer makes it appear that there's this, empowerment of black women, and I want to be like her someday. And it's a woman, a black woman leader. But when you peel the onion and you do the research of the actual history, it seems that this actual tribe was involved in the slave trade.
They were the most evil tribe in Africa.
Uh-huh.
They were the biggest involved in the. Matter of fact, most of their slaves are the ones that ended up in America. They were the biggest one in Africa to do. Their whole culture was built on it. Also, they made the Mayans look like nothing compared to.
Let's educate our audience on who the Mayans were. Who were the Mayans?
Well, they were a bunch of Indians that really liked to kill people.
And well, they were also they were an advanced civilization, much like I don't know, Rome, but they were in the middle of South America. They had pyramids and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, but they didn't have the wheel, which makes it even weirder. But they were big on, what is it?
Sacrifice. Yeah.
Human sacrifice. Oh, yeah? Well, this tribe was even bigger on it.
Whoa.
On the day that their king died, they sacrificed 800 slaves.
Ouch.
All black, by the way.
But they were a black society, right?
Right. And one of their military units was a female unit because they'd lost a lot of men in battle, so they started filling the ranks with women to fight. They trained them how to fight and all that.
Wait. Did they call them all Rosie the Sacrificers?
I think they did, actually.
Rosie.
But
when the men are off to war,
the movie made it appear as though we are fighting for our freedom against these evil white colonizers. Well, the truth is, the colonizers were trying to stop the slave trade. Them.
So there's an undertone here of this Woman King movie that the white male colonies, European descent, were the evil ones.
Yeah.
And that the black African leaders were the good, virtuous ones.
I mean,
when in reality,
fucking snow.
When in reality, it could be complete opposite.
Well, considering the fact that those slave trades were open hundreds of years before the whites ever got involved, and then later it was only the whites that ended it. By the way, it's still going on over there. We ended it here. And we put an end to the basic slave trade with the ships and the slaves. None of them did it. We did it. So anyway, the bottom line is,
great point.
You got two white liberal women that wrote this movie, making it seem like, the whites are the bad guys. That tribe is so awesome and they're so great. And they just beat and kill everybody up because they're so cool. The truth is,
now wrap it up.
They got their asses kicked in real battle. And when they fought the French, they lost 300. The French lost 6. Both sides had guns, and we were the good guys. They were the bad guys.
Gotcha. Okay.
Any final thoughts here? As we're going to wrap this. It's been about 15 minutes.
Perfect. Yeah, I think this is a good trial run to see if this thing will work.